I've lived here all my life. I was born and I spent my whole life on the farm, which is a part of Pacific.
Okay.
My whole farm is in the city limits of the town. That's about all.
You had an uncle who worked at Beecham. So what do you remember about that?
Well, that he was a man that was before his time. You know, he was ahead of, he thought ahead,
Okay.
and he tried a lot of stuff which didn't pan out.
Like what?
Well, as far as I remember, he was the first man in this county to have soybeans.
Oh wow.
Plant soybeans. That's one thing I remember. He tried many different things, and a lot of them didn't pan out.
And what about your farm? What did you do on your farm?
I milked cows.
How many cows did you have?
At the end, I was milking about 130.
Oh wow. Did you supply this dairy to Pacific, to other areas?
No, my milk was shipped to Woodlawn Dairy. They bottled milk and
And then sent
distributed
it.
it. And after I quit, they went out of business. I shipped to Peebly Dairy.
Okay. And so you said you're born and raised in Pacific.
I was born and raised right on that farm. I made my whole life on that farm. I was one of 6 children, 3 brothers and 2 sisters.
Have you noticed over the course of your life how Pacific has changed?
Oh yes, it's grown in the last 7, 8 years. It has really grown.
In terms of population, business? And what has that been like for you to witness that?
Well, it's just a lot more people learn to meet. Most of my close friends I went through school with.
Okay, where'd you go to school?
Pacific.
What year did you graduate? Do you recall?
I think 1948,
48.
47 or 48, somewhere along there.
Did any of them have any other businesses or work in Pacific or anything if you remember?
Well, most of them, like Red Hogan, he was a good friend, and he had a business of wiring, electric. I had lots of friends.
Did you have any experiences with Route 66?
I remember when it went through the heart of Pacific when it was Route 66, and then they made 44, and it moved to the north a little bit. It went up through the northern edge of Pacific.
And did you notice a big change once 44 came in? No? Kind of just remained the same?
It was very casual change.
Casual change. Is there anything that you would wish to see Pacific do? Like anything, any improvements or anything that like a dream that you would have for this area or the people here? Any improvements?
I've never thought about it.
You've been content with it?
Take as it comes.
Pete Grimm. But you say that's not your actual name. What's the
No.
story behind that?
Well, the way I hear it, I had a old brother, 5 years older than me. He was Jack and his name was Fred. And I was Gerald, and I got home. The hired hands my dad had that gave us the name of Pete and Jack after mules that we had. And them names hung with us our whole life.
Your whole life, ever since.
Yeah, it's, everybody knows me as Pete.
Now, your farm, was it your father who started it?
Yes.
So he started it, where did he, was he originally a resident from around the area? or-
No, he came from Oklahoma.
What drove him here?
I don't know. If my father didn't talk about his past very much. He was busy paying for the farm and
Yeah.
making a living. There was times, well, a neighbor farm, like, was a busher, and he told me he can remember when my dad and his family came to this area. They were driving a herd of cattle, and you know, their cattle and their horses, and the mother drove a team with a baby. Let's see, I might have been the baby. No, I wasn't the baby. I guess it was my brother Jack,
Uh-huh.
and she drove the team, and he can remember him driving in to this area.
And what did your, what was your mother's role?
She just raised children and kept the house going. She always had a bunch of chickens. She sold eggs. And in the spring, she had got a bunch of baby chicks, and she sold fryers,
Yeah.
on Saturday and Sunday. And I can remember that.
Did you ever have any, like, work or cooperation or
With the bushers,
with the bushers?
yeah.
What did they, like, help with, or what did you help with?
Well, we just, like when we filled silo, they helped us, and we helped back and forth as it was needed.
Do you remember, Pacific, a lot of it is in a floodplain. Do you remember, were there any issues with your farm with flooding, with the river?
My mother and father bought that farm. That was before my brother older than I, Jack, was born, and they moved. Let's see, I think I'm 95 years old. Oh, they when my sister, that's 2.5 years older than me, was just born, and she was born when my folks came here. They moved to a rented farm, which I don't know how it happened, but and it was a bottom farm, and my dad farmed, and he started milking cows over there, and then when they moved, they bought the farm that I was raised on, basically, and he started the dairy there, and that's what he did, and my mother raised chickens and eggs, and that's how we got along. They spent the first 30 years on that farm with the river coming up, but never did get in the house.
Oh, that's good.
And then after 82, the river got in the house and 4 foot deep in the house. And then we had floods after that, and we had river in the house 3 different times in my lifetime.
What kind of damage did that do?
It did a hell of a lot of damage. We had to repaint and do everything in the house. Clean it, it was a job. What I was trying to get at, the first 30 years they lived there, they didn't have any. Then in 82 we had a huge one. And since then we've had 3 or 4 of them. I'll say this, Ruth and I both classmates, and we went through 12 years of schooling together. Her family was just like mine,
Dairy family.
sorta. They had a small herd of cattle. I was the one that kept the dairy herd going. I liked it, and I stayed with it.
Stayed with it. When did you eventually stop or retire or leave?
And when I was 88 years old.
So you were milking up until 88?
No, I've sold out the dairy, and then I raised beef and raised hay. The final years of my farm life.
And what happened to your farm? Is it still
It's
in the
still
family?
there.
Anyone else
My children are all using it.
use it? And where is it located at again?
The Highway O, at the last bit of Pacific that's in the
Yep.
city limits. But the barns fell down, and I didn't keep them up because of the floods. There's so much damage that I just give up on them. I wore it out. I wore the buildings out. I worked every day of my life until I was 88 years old. And I jumped off of the tractor one day when I came in and said, "That's it." And I didn't get back. They had to put the tractor up. I never got back. I didn't do a thing after that.